Hey there, it's Coach Bradley T, and welcome to part two of the college recruiting information session. In this part two, we're going to be talking about the pathway for college softball and what the recruitment process is. Just a heads up, this is a bit of a longer one here because we're going to get more in depth on everything about the process, and there's a lot of different levels to it that you need to know. So let's just revisit quickly what is college softball. And what is it like to play at this level? And so, first things first, we have to remember what college softball is. Basically, you have to go to class, you play softball, then you graduate. That's what it is in a nutshell. So, because of that, it's really all about the experience. Every single school offers roughly the same thing in terms of that the expectation is that you go to class, you play softball, then you graduate. So, where the differences are is it's what kind of experience that you can possibly get out of it, and every single school offers a different experience. It's also a chance that you can play at the highest level of softball that you possibly can, and you also have a chance to get your school paid for. And lastly, not many other people get this opportunity to play softball at this highly competitive level, and you also get to experience living in a different part of the world potentially. So the pathway. This is what everybody really wants to know, and we're going to start to get into the nitty gritty of it. So, first things first is how does someone end up on a college softball team? College softballs are generally anywhere from 15 to 25 players, but not all players are going to return every year. Teams lose players for some of the following reasons. Some players graduate, some players use up all of their eligibility, some players transfer out, and some players simply quit the sport. Because of this, because coaches always are losing players every single year, coaches are also always looking to the future and trying to find ways to make their team better. They do this through two main avenues. One, putting their existing players through a training program that develops them to be able to excel on the field at their level. And then the second way is to bring in new and hopefully better players. So where do these new players come from? Players can either transfer in from other colleges or universities, or they can come out of high school, which are the grade 12 graduates. One thing to note, which you're going to need to know as you go throughout your recruiting process, is that every high school player is considered to be a possible recruit, and players as of grade 9 are referred to as PSAs, which is short for prospective student athlete. Coaches are likely going to throw that acronym at you, so it's good to start to know it now. When you're in grade 8 or below, you are not considered a PSA yet, and some of the rules that they have on their recruiting windows don't apply until you actually hit your grade 9 year. Just want to take it back a little bit and just want to talk about a research project that I have undertaken in the fall of 2023. A bit of the genesis of this was that I was really curious to know what exactly college coaches in this day and age are actually looking for when they are recruiting players. So I took it upon myself to reach out to my personal network of college coaches and also cold email others to learn more about what the recruitment process is and what they're looking for in standout recruits. I have I have a total of 102 total respondents and counting, which come from the NCAA Division I level. I had 23 respondents. Division II, I had 16. Division III, I had 18. NAIA, I have 14 respondents. And junior colleges, I had 31. Of this research, I have been combing through and looking for the common themes and trends, and three main things have really jumped out to me from all of the responses of these 102 coaches. The first thing that college coaches are looking for in terms of a standout recruit is, are you going to help them win games? Basically, you need to be good enough to play at their level, or coaches need to be able to project you that in years 2, 3, and 4 that you'll be able to be good enough once you get into their training program. They need to see your video in order to be able to make a judgment or an assessment if you're able to play for them. They also want to know what some of your metrics are. This is really important for the Division I teams. These are things like your overhand throwing, your bat speed, your hitting exit velocity, your home to first time. Having elite level measurable skills will separate you from the rest. That is very important for the Division 1 schools. Not quite so critical for Division 3 and NAIAs and junior colleges, but the high level Division 1 and high level junior colleges are definitely looking for elite level measurable skills. Secondly, what they're looking for is, are you good for their team culture? You have to be a good teammate, you have to work hard, and you have to be accountable. That showed up time and time again in the responses that I got back from these college coaches. Lastly, the third thing that they're looking for is, will you do well in the classroom? You have to have your academics in order, because you have to be able to pass your classes in order to stay eligible to actually play on the field for them when it comes time to their season. And if you stick around to part 3 of this presentation, you'll see that there's a lot of opportunities for academic scholarship money for kids that have good grades. If you have all 3 of these, coaches will make every effort to get you onto their team. The number one, which is, can you help them win games, is very important to the best possible teams out there. So back to the recruitment process. So what it basically is that for a high school player, during high school, players and coaches meet each other and discuss options to see if there's a fit for the player and for the school and the institution. The old way, which was 20 plus years ago, was that you had to attend showcase tournaments or recruiting camps and hope to be seen in person by a college coach who was there, or you had to physically mail your information / your video to coaches and hope that they respond to you. Many current club ball coaches come from this era, which is why you hear terms like showcase and exposure thrown around a lot. But the fact of the matter is that they simply what they used to be. Many of the college coaches that I heard from during my research project said that they don't really go to the showcase or exposure tournaments anymore, because they're much more online and they're much more digital now. So they rely on the video that the players are sending them in much more than these showcase and exposure tournaments. Now, coaches can also be reached via email, social media, text, DMs, personal referrals, etc. There's a much more connected network of coaches, of college coaches, as well as club ball coaches out there than ever before because of this digital and online presence. Your video is super important, especially verifiable video. So another thing about the recruitment process, so there's a few different ways that you can go about it, and I'm going to go with two opposite ends. One is the see what sticks approach, which is where you email every coach that you can, attend multiple showcase tournaments, go to as many prospect camps as you possibly can, spam your social media, DM/tag coaches personally in everything that you post online, and see what coaches respond to you. If you can tell from the tone of my voice, this is not recommended. Or you can do it at the other end, which is you can be very strategic about your recruiting process. The harsh reality is that you're going to need to know is that not every coach is going to want to hear from you. Yes, it's very good that you have all the confidence in the world in your skills and abilities, but not every coach is going to want to actually reach out, because the fact of the matter is that there's a number of coaches out there that just simply don't think that you can play at their level, and that's okay. But when you are reaching out to these college coaches, the goal is to get them to want to start a conversation with you. So how can you be strategic in your recruitment process? Well, that's what we're going to go over next. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to evaluate yourself and where you are at and what level you think that you can realistically play at. High level Division 1 has a different set of expectations for their players than a mid-level Division 3 program or a mid-level junior college program. So you want to research schools that may be looking for your skill set and your skills and abilities. What you also want to research are the academic programs offered, facilities, location, climate, etc. You want to then write your SAT and or ACT exams. These are standardized tests that you can likely get access to through your high school. Then you'll want to reach out to coach with a targeted email that includes verifiable video that backs up your skills. The goal is to have them respond and start a conversation with you. And you need to know that coaches won't be giving you an offer to come to their program or to come to their school based off of one email. They're going to want to actually talk to you multiple times and, if possible, see you actually play in person, either on their campus or at a tournament that is close to them at a certain point in time, if they're truly interested in recruiting you. Now, depending on what level the school plays at, they have different rules on when they can officially start to recruit/talk to you. NCAA Division I schools can only officially start to recruit you on September 1 of your grade 11 year. Division II schools can start to recruit you as of June 15th of your grade 10 year. Division III and NAIA and junior colleges can all recruit you anytime as of grade 9. Now, these dates can be quite overwhelming, but you shouldn't get discouraged if you aren't being recruited on the first day of your grade 9 classes. Many of these schools are actually all in competition for the same types of players, especially at the NCAA Division I and high Division II levels. And many of these schools that are below them in terms of their competition have to wait until those schools get their players before the trickle-down effect happens. The reality is that almost all real recruiting happens in grade 11 and grade 12 for most players that aren't high-level Division I players, which is the majority of the players that are out there. Once a conversation has started with a coach, you want to have multiple conversations with them to see if there's a fit between the player and the coach. You want to have the coach watch you play in person, if possible. This is not absolutely critical anymore, as some players are being recruited and are being given offers to play on teams without having a coach see them play in person, but it definitely helps a lot. You can also attend one of their prospects camps, which are camps that the colleges host on or very near to their campus, so that they can watch you play and watch how you train. You would probably want to do a visit or tour of the campus, at least at a certain point in time, because you could potentially spending 2 to 4 years there. You want to discuss some scholarship opportunities, either athletic and or academic, with the coach or an academic and financial aid advisor within the institution. Then you want to talk to an academic advisor to ensure you'll be able to actually get into the school. Then you're going to, at a certain point, make a verbal commitment. I will be going over more on what a verbal commitment is in a future slide. Then, if you're playing at the NCAA Division I or Division II levels, you will need to sign a letter of intent. Then you have to apply and formally get accepted into the school. So I do know that those last 3 points are a little bit confusing for a lot of people. So we're just going to go more in depth on the commitment levels and what all these types of acceptances are. So verbal commitment, letter of intent, formal acceptance, these are probably all new things to the majority of you out there. So let's get into every single one of them. So a verbal commitment is where you declare publicly that you will be going to this school. You can make a verbal commitment at any time, be it grade 9, 10, grade 11, grade 12, it doesn't matter. You can make a verbal commitment at any time. What a verbal commitment does not do is it does not prohibit other coaches from recruiting you or you from talking to other coaches. It is non-binding and can be broken by any time by the player or the coach. This doesn't happen very often within the sport of softball, but it does happen for various reasons. Coaches are going to want you to make a verbal commitment because they need to start to understand who else they should be recruiting and going after for their incoming recruiting class. If they have a solid verbal commitment from you that you will be going to their school, then there's a higher likelihood that they aren't going to continue to recruit players at your position. And players can also use a verbal commitment to end their recruiting process. Lots of players feel very overwhelmed with the recruiting process, or they just get tired of it and they want to make a verbal commitment because they just don't want to go through it anymore. So as long as the other coaches respect your wishes and don't recruit you, that can be a very helpful process to give you the ease of mind so that you can focus on just living your life. National Letter of Intent, aka the NLI. So this is for NCAA Division I and Division II schools, or there's also the Letter of Intent for junior colleges. This is an official contract between the player and the school that is signed, and it is generally signed in your grade 12 year. Once signed, it does prohibit other schools from contacting the player, and it also usually includes terms on the athletic scholarships that you're going to be receiving from the school. You can be released from an NLI if you have a demonstrated need. So this does happen. So sometimes players sign an NLI, but then something happens in their life where they want to change their mind. One of the most common examples is after a player has signed an NLI, their coach gets a job at a different school. So then they want to break their commitment to that school because they don't know who their coach is going to be. So that's one of the ways that a player can be released from an NLI. There's no formal equivalent for the NAIA or the NCAA Division III. And then the other thing, just on getting into the school, how to apply and get formally accepted into the school. This is the formal application process that goes through the official university admissions office, and is the same as every other student. So if we kind of just backtrack a little bit, first players will make their verbal commitment to the school. Then they will have more conversations with the coach, generally trying just to hammer out the final terms of their scholarship and to ensure that they've kept their grades up for the institution. Then they're going to sign their national letter of intent in their grade 12 year. And then at some point, likely in the spring of their grade or in the winter of their grade 12 year, they will formally apply and get an acceptance through the school. That ends part 2. Up next, we're going to be going over in part 3. We're going to be talking all about scholarships, both athletic and academic. So hope to see you there.